Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. We're waiting an extra minute. I see 30 participants. It's increasing fastly, but let's wait one more minute for everybody to join. I think we can gently start while other participants joining the webinar. So good afternoon to all. Thank you very much for being with us for this session to discuss collective corporate impact strategies. For this session, I have the pleasure to welcome with my colleagues from Evpa Corporate Initiative, Caroline Heitman, Corporate Initiative Manager, and Nicolas Malmandier behind the scene. Thank you very much for putting this session, helping us putting this session together, Nicolas. Nicolas is Corporate Research Associate, and for this webinar, I have the pleasure to welcome Christophe Pauline. Christophe is Impact Investing Director at Schneider Electric, and Pim Moll. Pim is a Managing Director of Rabo Foundation. A warm welcome, Christophe and Pim.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. So as many of you probably remember, we deep dive in 2020 this topic of corporate social in corporate impact strategies through extensive interviews in 2020 with a publication shared where we shared a key learning last December at the C Summit. With an illustrator, we had a webinar on why to set up a corporate impact fund. That was on the 1st of April. Many of you attended this session, and now today this is kind of the second part of the discussion, with a specific session dedicated to the illustration of this collective corporate impact strategies publication. So in a nutshell, what are we talking about? It's two dimensions. One is really how corporate foundation, a fund, incubator, accelerator, how they align on a common impact vision together with the company. And the second dimension is very much about how they strategically collaborate all together, building on the strength of each other. And there's several ways for this, several strategies, the scaling, the broadening, and the deepening strategy. And Caro will share that, will elaborate, share those key highlights in a minute. So very quickly, for the one who do not know us yet, just a reminder of our amazing corporate members, 70 plus. They're all mobilizing corporate social investments for maximum societal impact. And next, Nicolas, please. Yeah, who are we talking to into corporate organization? Mostly we're talking to corporate foundation, corporate impact accelerator, corporate social businesses, shareholder foundations, corporate impact funds. Sometimes sustainability team when they are generating positive impact, not only mitigating risk. I'm sure you're all familiar to that. Next, Nicolas. Yeah, this visual very, very quickly. This is the Evpa impact spectrum. I won't be long on this one, just to say that to give a little bit of landscape and to enable each of you to position you in this spectrum, your organization in this spectrum. You see on the left side what we call the corporate social investors that I just described, the foundation, the funds, accelerator, social business, and so on. On the right side, we see the sustainability team, corporate social responsibility team, innovation team. The CFO sometimes are are not only interested, but part of task force of impact initiative inside corporate organization. And we have the business unit. And the message here is that this topic of collective impact strategy can be initiated and taken forward by a different impact vehicle, different teams inside the corporate organization. But above all, what is super important, of course, that's the red thread, is aligning on a common impact vision. It took me a second and a half to say, and it probably takes months to make it happen in a corporate organization. And we have two experts with us who will illustrate that absolutely. Yes, next, yeah, we wanted to, before handing the floor to Caroline, we really want, you are close to 50, we have close to 50 participants, 50, and we really want to seize this opportunity to ask you a few questions, really to take the temperature on this topic. Where is your organization, you know? Just to have a sense of how corporates walk the talk on this question. So thank you, Nicolas. You have 4 questions, very straightforward. Thank you so much. If you can take 1 second for each question. First one is, do you believe that your business is adequately meeting the social needs of the communities where you work? Please. Okay. Nicolas, does that work?
Yes, we will now publish the results by launching the next question.
Thank you. Can you share maybe the results when you have it in the chat for all? So second question, we move on. Since the pandemic, have you observed your business accelerating its strategy towards greater social purpose? Thank you. All right. We'll collect the result at the end for sake of time. So third question, if yes, are you and your team part of the strategic discussions? Thank you, Nicolas. And last question, as a corporate social investor, how much do you feel you contribute to your business's overall impact strategy? 1 is a low contribution, 5 is a maximum contribution. Very good. So if we summarize, there are some good news and some frustration probably identified here, because we see that the good news is that the business seems to adjust its overall impact strategy, becoming probably more sustainable. And I think the whole this whole strategic thinking about outlining a purpose, a business purpose, is certainly part of this journey. So that's the good news. The not such a good news is that the corporate social investor and I'm having seen the list of participants. We see a majority of corporate foundation responding to the poll. We see that no, you're not part of the discussion, 75%, and probably the yes. Accordingly, the answer to the last question, how do you feel you contribute to the business impact strategy, is in the middle, right? Is not massive, and probably some room for improvement here. So, you know, we at EVP Corporate Initiative, we see also a role to support you in this journey, to really convince the senior management that corporate social investors inside the corporate organization can be a trial horse, as we like to say at EVPA. Maybe I'm quoting the author here. A trial horse, a compass, a catalyst to really a golden nudge to onboard the rest of the organization, especially the senior management, top management, on those critical question of impact strategy. I'm sure it's food for thought for us and for the community in the months to come. Count on us. And for now, over to you, Chris. Over to you, Caro. I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you, Sophie. Yeah, and also big welcome from my side to everyone who joined today to the webinar. I think it's a super interesting topic, so I'm really glad to see all this interest. And we have two amazing cases here today. Yeah, I'm here today also just to give you a little bit of a recap on the research findings, because at EVPA we did an entire research study on this topic of collective corporate impact strategies. And the reason is, of course, because we want to help our members also accelerate in their impact. We want to always understand what are the latest trends in the space, what else is there that organizations are already doing to really push the boundaries further ahead in how they create their societal impact. And in line with that, we noticed that more and more organizations were setting up not just one corporate social investor, but two, and in some cases even more corporate social investors. And we thought that was really interesting, and we wanted to understand a bit more about why these organizations decide to do that, how they do so, and then ultimately, of course, how does it help them to create societal impact? How does it help them to scale their impact, to create more sustainable impact? And some of the examples we have here today, so we'll hear from Pim, who works at the Rabo Foundation, how they're working together with the Rabo Rural Fund and Impact Fund and the Rabobank. Another example is Schneider Electric, who has not only a foundation, but who also has several impact funds, or Vodafone, who has not only an institute and an impact accelerator program, but also, in fact, 27 national foundations. So these are really the kind of cases that we looked into, and we spoke to numerous experts and practitioners in the space. And yeah, we asked them, why did you decide to set up these multiple vehicles, and how does it help you in your abilities to create societal impact? And what we notice are basically four underlying motives. So if you could go to the next slide. Thank you, Nicholas. On the one hand, it of course helps them to combine different financial instruments. So sometimes we have foundations that can deploy then the grants while they work next to an impact fund or a corporate social business that can also deploy debt or equity instruments. It also means setting up these new vehicles to support new types of social purpose organizations. So oftentimes a corporate foundation might be restricted in their ability to support also social enterprises that already have a revenue generating business model. So by setting up a new corporate social investor that can also serve these type of already revenue generating social enterprises at a stage where they're still too risky maybe for mainstream investors to support, it helps them to support also these organizations that would otherwise be maybe stuck in the valley of death. The third element is also that it helps to see close alignment with the company. Also here we know that there's a general trend towards a closer alignment with the company. But corporate foundations can oftentimes be legally or in the regulatory environment be restricted from seeking very close alignment to the company. So by setting up new impact structures like an impact fund or a social business, corporate social business, can also be a means to support more societal issues that also have a close link with the company. But besides these practical motives, we also saw a very interesting underlying strategic motive emerging, and that is the idea to move towards more holistic impact approaches. So by talking to all these practitioners, we also noticed this general awareness around that each organization can only do so much working alone in a silo. They all look towards how can we work together with similar actors that can complement our work, that can build on our strength and on whose strength we can build, to really work together to build a network of organization towards the same goal and ultimately create a bigger societal impact. And this is where we find collective corporate impact strategies. So if you go to the next slides. Yeah, so what we see here is these organizations that really want to move towards more holistic impact approaches, that do not want to just tackle one cause or one issue, but really want to work together as a team towards an underlying impact vision. They generally pursue 3 different approaches, which we labeled as scope, scale, and depth. In the first approach, in the scope strategy, the organizations really try to broaden their general impact on society. So we see that new vehicles are being set up with a new societal challenge they address. They may support a new beneficiary group, or they may operate in new geographical areas. So here the idea is that all of these organizations, they still work towards a common vision, but they try to branch out into different streams and different areas and look at it from different angles, so that by having all these organizations work together, they can have a broader impact on society at large. The second example is the scale strategy. And here we see that also in some cases, and we'll hear a great example about this in a minute, the organizations are starting to work together to really scale the impact of a particular societal solution. And here these organizations notice that social enterprises or social solutions, as they grow from incubation all the way to maturity, they need different type of support from investors. They need patient capital in the beginning stages, they need different kinds of capital in the premature stage, and then they can be supported by corporates, for instance, in the scaling phase. So what they try to do here is that they try to work along the continuum of capital, so they can ensure that promising societal solutions receive the necessary support really from incubation all the way to maturity, and that they can successfully scale. And the last strategy is the depth strategy, where we'll also, again, hear a really great example in a minute, where these different organizations work together to deepen the impact on particular communities. So oftentimes here, these organizations, they realize that if they want to make their vision come true for people living in a particular area, they need to address different underlying challenges. It's oftentimes not just one way to achieve a vision. We need to work and address different underlying root causes. So what these organizations do is they set up multiple vehicles that each focus on a different yet related root cause in order to really accelerate more of a systemic change and long-term change for people living in these communities. So this was just a very broad overview of the 3 different strategies that we unraveled. If you go to the next slides very quickly, we have obviously also some materials available out there. So for everyone who's also interested to read more on the underlying strategies or on these amazing case studies that we have here today, I can recommend you to go to our website at EVPA and look for our materials. We have a great leaflet explaining a bit more the strategies and the benefits of each strategies. And we have both of the case studies that we have here today also as a written version available for you. So I can encourage all of you to go to our website and download the materials.
Thank you very much, Caro. So now, without waiting, a pleasure to have you, Christophe and Pim. We have two experienced practitioners for the latecomers who just joined our webinar. Christophe, Impact Investing Director at Schneider Electric, and Pim is Managing Director at Rabo Foundation. So very interestingly, you are both coming from business and you're experts in building bridges between impact and business through when you set up at the time this impact investing fund. So sounds like you're really the right person to share your experience. You had a different leadership position in this previous professional career. And we start with you, Christophe. Christophe, you're heading the impact investing activities at Schneider Electric, overlooking now 4 funds, and you were at the very start of the launch of the first fund. So could you share with us how Schneider Electric at large outlined this impact strategy, deepening the impact through the access to energy program? And we would like to hear from you, why this initiative was set up next to the foundation and within the company. How did it fit into the overall strategy of the company? And how the role of your senior management, and how did this initiative contributed to make Schneider Electric the world's most sustainable company in 2021? We're very curious. Thank you, Christophe. Over to you.
Thank you, Sophie. Maybe first thing for those who don't know Schneider Electric, if we could have the first slide, Nicola, please. A very brief overview. Schneider Electric is a 25 billion revenue company with 128,000 people working all over the world. We are a tech company. We devote more than 5% of the revenue to R&D, and we are really a worldwide company because more than 40% of our turnover is actually generated in new economies. Describing our business is not easy. The easiest way to do it is to say what we don't do. If you take the electricity chain, starting with the power station and ending with the consumer appliance, we do about everything which is in between. We are not in the power generation business. We, by the way, are not also in the transportation business, but and we don't do any electrical equipment. But in between, we do all what is necessary in terms of equipment or software to make electricity safe, reliable, productive, and as a key component of energy management. Next slide, please. So working around electricity for us, it's clear that climate is a very strong issue, and that sustainable development is really at the heart of our business. Just a quick example: the Sustainable Development Department of Schneider is reporting to the strategy department. So the COMEX member in charge of strategy is also in charge of sustainable development. We have developed six commitments, and it's very interesting to see that these commitments are new ones, and they come after at least more 10 years of a strong work in terms by the Sustainable Development Department to make sure that these somehow infuse the company all in all the departments and at all the hierarchical levels. And we are very proud to see that somehow now we are almost out of job, because it is the whole company that has taken six sustainability long-term commitments around climate, around resources, around equal opportunities, generation, trust, and very important, how to empower local communities. So this is the framework. Next slide. This is the framework into which we have the luck of being working. We started a program 10 years ago, a social responsibility program aiming at improving access to electricity. And at the very beginning, this program was threefold. We wanted to put on the market products and solutions dedicated to helping people to get access to electricity. 10 years ago, this product did not exist in the market. It's not true anymore. We also wanted to support training and entrepreneurship, because lack of technical knowledge is probably one of the biggest hindrances in developing access to electricity. It's not innate to know how to work with a solar system, for instance. You have to understand the principle. You have to understand how it works. So you have to have knowledgeable people and knowledgeable workforce to develop access to electricity. And the last point was impact investing. So products and solutions were developed by a specific department of Schneider Electric under the sustainable development. So we created in 10 years a sort of small social business unit within Schneider Electric. The training and entrepreneurship arm is actually supported by the Schneider Electric Foundation, because we make cooperation with training organization and help those training organizations to develop curriculum around electricity trade and entrepreneurship. And this is financed by the Schneider Electric Foundation. In terms of impact investing, we started by creating a first fund, which is the SEA, which stands for Schneider Electric Energy Access. We did that in 2009, sorry, not 1909. And we started by investing in access to electricity. Very soon it appears to us that we were far too small. So we launched the creation of a new fund dedicated to access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa. As a corporation, it is not our core business to be financing impact investing. But we have knowledge, we have networks, and we know what we are talking about. So what we did actually is to create partnership with development banks, actually 5 of them for EAB, and we create a fund together, the Schneider Electric as a corporation and the development bank, to create an impact fund. We did that for Africa, and we reiterate the action to create another fund for Asia. So if you look at what we now call inclusive business, which is how can we as a corporation contribute to improve access to electricity in Africa, to improve access to electricity and productive users in South and Southeast Asia, and also to fight energy poverty in more developed countries, we actually use all the 3 elements. So all the 3 elements are working together and contribute each in its scope to the goals we have set up. The cooperation with the the business part is delivering products, especially in access to electricity products. The foundation is financing training, but also working as a scout in Europe, financing NGOs that are fighting energy poverty with subsidies, and helping those NGOs to create social business, which become investable by our social fund. So we also work together quite a lot with the foundation in Europe around the energy poverty subject. All of this would not have been possible if we didn't have a strong commitment from our CEO. From the very beginning, Jean-Pascal Tricoire has been a very strong supporter and has accepted to invest money in this program on a steady basis for more than 10 years. And that's a very important element. Next slide. So this is to give you a bit of time frame. So we started in 2009 with the first fund, which is quite small, but it has the particularity of being linked to our employee saving program. So our employees are LPs of this fund, which is quite interesting in terms of responsibility and communication. In 2011, we participated to the creation of the Livelihood Fund, led by Danone, which is a carbon fund. We launched the African Fund in 2015, and we launched the Asian Fund in 2020. Those two, you will see that in none of these funds, Schneider Electric is alone. On the first one, we are in partnership with our employees, with FITrust, with another social impact fund, a member of Evpa, and also the health insurance of Schneider Electric employees. In livelihood, of course, there are about 10 corporations working together in livelihoods. Energy Access Venture, 5 DFIs around CDC, but also FMO, EIB, and the OPEC fund. And the Asian fund is we done it with Norfund, Amundi, and EDFI. So we always work in partnership, and except for the first fund, nowhere do we have the majority. How do we want to move things around? We want to be inclusive, and these are the key elements for us when we decide to invest. We really want to serve the basic needs of people who do not have the means to afford them. We need to be innovative, because if it was easy, it would be done. So we definitely need to be innovative. And it's very important for us to be both global and local, because if you do not have those two legs, it's very difficult to succeed. Next one. So this is again our four a map for where we are. So EAV in Africa, mainly on energy production, and solar home system, microgrids, but also job creation, environmental protection, digital inclusion. In Asia, we are more focused on productive energy. How can we put energy at work? So it will be cooling system for farmers. It will be irrigation systems, but also, of course, just power generation. And in Europe, it gets around safe housing. We definitely need to fight against all the risk generated by bad electricity systems to make the homes and building energy efficient so that we reduce the consumption and we help people to be able to meet the bills. We can have the next one. This is a team. So as you can see, it's quite a light team. There is one person in charge of SEA with the help of trainees or apprentices, but basically it's one person. And we have 4 people based in Singapore to look after the Asian fund. In the African fund, we've got about 9 people, but it is an independent team, and livelihood, there are about 20 people in the management team. So it's not that labor intensive, and while working in partnership, it's also not that capital intensive, but it's definitely very, very much will intensive. Next one. Okay, maybe the next one. Just to give you a quick snapshot of the global portfolio. If you look at the all the companies we invest in, they are all contributing to environment because they are all in the field of clean energy. There is no company we invest in that is producing carbon emission. Now they all contribute to the climate, but then, except for one, sorry. But then they also have different scope. Most of them are contributing to safer and cleaner energy. That is our companies that would be distributing solar home system, managing microgrids, putting on the market DC efficient equipment, all that kind of stuff. Some of them are also more specialized on digital inclusion. We have one company that is developing internet access, and another one which is distributing mobile phones. Some of them also contribute to food security. We have companies selling pay-as-you-go irrigation system. We have companies selling clean cold storage system. And of course, there is livelihood, so that project is a very strong contributor to food security. We have company contributing to affordable and safe housing. That's mainly in France. That's mainly companies that are revamping social houses or building very efficient new social houses. And we have companies that are also focusing on financial inclusion, mainly through financing solar equipment or and the other kind of the portfolio companies. Sunfunder, for instance, is a debt fund manager, and you have on the screen almost all their customer portfolio. It's an interesting way of contributing to the ecosystem, because we know those companies also need debt financing. Next one. And this is a short summary of our impact and how we measure it. I mean, I'm not going to get to it in details. And that's it.
Thank you, Christophe. I know it's a difficult challenge to tell the story in such a few minutes. Thank you very much, Christophe. Tim, over to you. Very interestingly, we'll see that while in Schneider Electric, the sustainability team was very much at the initiative of setting up a fund. We'll see here, and I'm sharing that with the participants, that it's under your leadership as head of the Rabo Foundation. You spotted that the fund already existed, but you really identified the need to adjust the impact strategy. And you did that with your CEO, with the support of your CEO. So over to you. How did you outline this collective impact strategy aiming at scaling? We are in the scaling impact strategy. Thank you very much, Phil.
Thank you, Sophie. And also thank you, EVPA, to invite me over here. We're glad to contribute to the important work of EVPA to strengthen the corporate foundations in Europe and give them more of a face, and also to make clear what's the influence of a corporate foundation in corporate institution. Compliments for Caroline and her team for detailing our story and putting that on paper. Because you mentioned already, I see foundations, corporate foundations, as a kind of Trojan horse. So we have, I think, an important role to play in the culture and the societal mission of our companies, which is very much under pure scrutiny these days in a lot of countries. You see, as you mentioned, that I focus on scale. Having an impact strategy, as you stated, is easy to say. It's half a second. This one took us 2 years in order to collect all the different parts of the puzzle, because it is a puzzle. And you need a lot of luck, you need the right timing, you need the right context in order to put the story together. And the fourth item Caroline already mentioned, you need a holistic view very much in order to see how you can align it yourself and also with the strategy of the company. Rabobank, of which we're the corporate foundation, is a bank. It's a retail bank in the Netherlands, but also food and agri bank internationally. And one of the key items on which we focus is food and agri. And here you see our need for change. We have 2 billion people surviving on less than $2 a day. And the largest majority of these people are farmers. And they also provide exactly these farmers, and not so much for the subsistence farmers, but the farmers that organize themselves in cooperatives or other ways in organizing themselves, and can also be SMOs with a large outreach with farmers. They provide 70% of our daily food. So their role is crucial. But one of the key elements that is missing is they are hardly ever being financed, because farming is high risk, and especially with climate change, the risk is even higher. And if you go for the central theme that we have in the next slide, please, Nicola, then you see that scaling the impact of these farmer-based organizations to enable smaller farmers to produce enough food sustainably to feed the growing population. And sustainably is both long-term, but also sustainably ecological factors. So this is a shared vision by the foundation, but also by the bank, and also of the Rural Fund, which is in between, and I will address that in a minute. What's the setup? The bank was established by farmers in 1895. The foundation already exists for nearly 47 years and has a long history, and was an NGO for a very long time that changed a little bit over time in the last 5 to 10 years. And we changed it in the last 4 years that I was at the helm in an impact financer. The Rural Fund was established in 2011. That came from various pieces of small funds in the company, and that was formed together also with Coordate and ICO, 2 NGOs in the Netherlands. 2 years ago, we went to the board with a holistic story, as Caroline explained, and we got a doubling of our capital. Both ICO and Coordate stepped down, and contrary to what Christophe said, we made it a Rabo vehicle only, because we could then very much align it with our strategy, as you can see in the next slide, Nicola. So the social challenge is that how to have enough food and how to have farmers that have access to finance in order to produce this food, and how to give them access to markets, knowledge, network, and innovation in order to have a higher efficiency, but also to take the climate change challenge in a much better way, but also take the food loss challenge in a much better way, and also take the food supply chain challenge in a much better way. So the societal solution are farmer-based organizations that can increase the productivity and yields, and we provide them early stage we provide early stage financing, as Caroline already stated, and you as well, Sophie, were an example of scale. So we go from incubation to maturity. So we start very often with small farmer-based cooperatives, and we try to bring them along the value chain or the supply chain to the next phase. And the rural fund can help to bring them to the next phase after the foundation, because they finance, as you will see in the next slide, larger amounts. So if you look at the horizontal axis, you see the development stages of investees from incubation to startup and to maturity. And on the vertical axis, you see the low and high volumes and amounts. As I stated, farmers are high risk, and hence they're very difficult to finance. As we exist for 47 years, we used to high risk, and that's exactly where we want to be active. So we start with small loans. We do working capital, we do trade finance, we do capex for farmers in these 22 countries, from the Philippines, Kenya, India, and to Ecuador or Nicaragua or Bolivia. If the foundation is in fact ready and a farmer-based organization has a certain sense of maturity, then the rural fund can step in order to take it to the next level. So in fact, our day of joy is when we have an exit. It's very difficult to hear that we are happy to lose a client, but if we lose a client, then in fact the client is ready to either go to the rural fund and then to take steps to local financing in their own country. And here the network of Rabo is very important, because we can also link them to local partner banks. We have Rabo partnerships, and Rabobank invests in many local banks in developing countries, and sometimes we can link them, these farmers, in, for instance, Uganda. I just had a board meeting in Uganda before this meeting, so we can link them to the bank, DFCU Bank in Uganda. So to align with the strategy of the bank on an important transition theme of the bank, food security worldwide, and we can all play our role according to the value chain of food, so to speak. If you take the next slide, please, Nicola. I will give you two brief examples and look at the time. One of them is in Indonesia. It's cassia. It's a cinnamon grower. And we started with a foundation quite a number of years ago in order to give them pre-financial export, to pre-finance their export contracts. And that also made it possible to pay the cinnamon farmers much quicker and make them less vulnerable to price volatility. That also made that they could take out the traders in the value chain and make the value chain shorter, and that a larger part of the price that we pay goes to the farmer. As we did it for a number of years, then we could bring them to the rural fund in order to accommodate the larger loan volume, and then connect them also with suppliers in Western Europe. That's one example. The other example is, for those of you that have a link with the Netherlands, is probably familiar. Tony Chocolonely, that was the number 25 chocolate producer in the Netherlands 10 years ago. It's now the number 1 brand. And the key thing, and you see the chain already on the outside of the packaging, is they want to be slave-free, and especially for child labor. And you also see the different parts instead of equal parts of chocolate, because the world gives different parts to different people, and they highlight that with the chocolate size as well. We finance 2 chocolate cooperatives, 2 cocoa cooperatives in Ghana and Ivory Coast. With a rural fund, we finance the trader, and Rabo finances Barry Callebaut, who makes the chocolate in Belgium, but we also, Tony Chocolonely is also a client of a local bank, of Rabobank in the Netherlands. So over here, we're able to connect the whole value chain. That is a rare example, but the examples are growing, also for coffee and also for other produce. For export side, we also finance a lot of local crops, of course. We don't do everything for the Western countries. And if you take it to the next slide, please, Nicola, you see a short summary. So bridging the valley of death, especially in the middle segment, when a lot of producer cooperatives or other companies as Mo fall short of financing, we can provide it with the Rabo Rural Fund. We have an ecosystem with our partner banks of Rabo, but also within Rabo. Take, for instance, the large corporates that we finance, be it Unilever, be it Danone, Christoph, or be it Olam or Ecom. We can connect them in the chain, And with the Rural Fund, we also have access to other social financiers like Oiko Credit, like Root, like Responsibility, and we can also team up together in order to provide the next phase of financing. We're enabling a successful exit, and we're able to scale the solutions through the company also with innovation. And the final conclusion, Nicola, it's pretty relevant both for the society and our business. We're building our reputation as a corporate foundation, being a Trojan horse, and also be it with a kind of guerrilla in the company in order to change or highlight what is necessary for societal bank that Rabo wants to play. So we link with the key dominance of being a change within the Rabo to, as a cooperative, play a more societal role in the present context where we more want a well-being economy. We have a large pipeline of investable social innovations and services that we can provide, and hence we're developing far-reaching expertise on societal solutions in that way. And the final slide is saying it all, and that's in that way, and I do it in a quick way, we're providing a road ahead, both for the foundation and the Rural Fund and the Rabobank, but more important for the farmers in developing countries that find it very difficult to get access to finance, network, expertise, and innovations. Thank you, Sophie, for allowing me to bring this story to all of you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Pim. And again, very short, in a very few minutes, thank you so much for making it so catchy. Do you have any question, please, participants? I can't see any question in the chat, but please, if you want to write your question in the chat or just speak out. In the meantime, while some participants are getting the question ready and so that it can be visible, I have a question for each of you. In your view, what are the key success factors? If you have your top 3 key success factors, what would they be? For Christophe and Pim. Pim, maybe you start.
It's perseverance, it's luck, it's having the right, finding the right timing, it's having access to the right people of top management in order to convey your message, but also make them part of the story. Telling your story a lot of times, because you have engaged so many people within a company that you have to repeat that to legal, to compliance, to fiscal, to a lot of settings. If you're able to do that, and it took me a year, so there, hence perseverance that you need very much.
Christophe?
Sure. No, I would I subscribe to everything Pim has said, especially the preference part. One in our case, one very important success factor was the not only the adhesion but the will of our top management. If you are working on such a project and you have the full support of the top management, it makes your life really easier, because it makes it easier to talk to all the people you have to talk. And I think this is a very important success factor. And then you've got to be professional, because it's not because we are talking about impact or because we are talking about social responsibility or because we are working in a foundation that we should not be great professionals. And again, to talk to all the professionals within the company, you have to be one.
Can I add on that one? That's a very important one. So before I came, the Corporate Foundation was seen as a kind of NGO. We made it into an impact financer exactly because of the reason of Christophe. You have to be professional because you have to match the corporate with the foundation, and you have to be on an equal footing. So that's very important. So that's a crucial the success factor. And another crucial success factor was, in fact, to bring both the foundation and the rural fund under one leadership with clear mandates. So we have one supervisory board now for the two of them. Instead, as we had before, we had different settings, different supervisory boards, a lot of time consumption, a lot of people talking. And now we bring everything together so that you can be brief and quick.
So joint governance.
Joint governance is very important, in our case at least.
And there is also one factor that we share with PIM is that we are coherent with our organization.
Yeah.
Rabobank speaking with the rural ecosystem is fully understandable. Schneider Electric speaking about access to electricity and energy management is also fully understandable. And this is also a very important success factor.
Yeah. So you're consistent, in fact, with each other. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which tips would you share with the participants who are struggling to align on a common vision internally? How would they start?
Take a step back first. And first look at the whole, so look at the puzzle and what's the greater story, as Caroline stated at point 4, what's the holistic view? So you first need to find that, and then it's easier to engage with people, to have a conversation, because then it's easier for them also to recognize and to tie into the story, because it's also then relevant for the company itself. And you're consistent with the key things of the company. But that you have to find first, and you have to make logical and make it easily accessible for the others to understand and to take that story along as well and make themselves, but also yourself, bigger in that sense, and makes your role easier.
Yes, we have a question for our participants transitioning to echoing this question. How did you choose the social problem to tackle? How did you do a materiality analysis? Can you both guide us about the process, about why your foundation has chosen those social problems and not others? So very much about additionality, feeling a gap, feeling a need. And the materiality, because usually the sustainability team, they have their own view, they have a wonderful materiality analysis, and it's obviously super strategic to be able to connect, to have the right strategic narrative inside the corporate organization with the executives. How do you deal with that?
Christoph?
I was about to say that I find it difficult to answer because we were in a very different situation. We had a blank page somehow, so we didn't do any materiality analysis. We just started to do things, to put product on the market, collect money, and make investment and.
Yeah, and if I remember well, you had 10 years back, you had also a single governance in terms of head of sustainability who had together with you or you together with him this vision, right? Really embracing both sustainability dimension and the impact strategy.
Absolutely. So we just started by doing it. It's a bit internal startup or something like that. So I find it difficult to answer this question.
Yeah,
I'm sure
we did. Well, we didn't do the analysis as well, but in fact, we looked around, and the key thing about the bank is giving credit. We were founded by farmers. We're active Rabo worldwide and a lot of developing countries. So it's easy to see the red threads in that. So how do you combine that, and how do you make that in a logical story? both connecting to the bank, but also adding to the bank. And to give one example, we're focusing impact to the power of 3. So ecological, economic, and social. We changed our credit committee into an impact committee. And we're now working to change the whole bank, all the credit committees, into impact committees. Because if you give a loan, you should not only look at the financial side, you should also look at the ecological and the social side. So we made a new model, a potential impact performance model. And then we started to discuss that with the business. And now Trade and Commodity Finance has used that model in their setting to apply that worldwide. So they use the kind of foundation in the box impact model in order to use it in the business. We're now also talking to the leasing company of Rabo, and we're talking to corporate banking in the Netherlands to also apply that model in their own setting. So you have to use the company or let the company use you as well in order to have more impact and to focus on one of the key transition themes of the bank. So it's giving and taking, but also having an influence in order to change the culture of that corporate as a Trojan horse.
Fantastic, Pim. You know, you're killing 2 questions at the same time. I'm seeing in the chat. Amazing. Your vision.
Saves time looking at the timeline, at the deadline. Yeah.
So indeed, this is something I wanted to stress is that, you know, the 3 approach, the scope, scaling, and deepen, they actually can give the opportunity, as you said, Pim, it's really in both ways. They can also give the company a unique opportunity to refine their overall impact, strategy of the
correct.
company. Very win-win, approach. So it's I see 4:04. I feel like we could continue the whole afternoon. It's so frustrating. I really want to thank everybody. Nicolas, maybe we can show the wrap up. We cheated a bit because we actually through the case studies, and thanks again for your contribution, Christophe and Pim, for those amazing case study, which is very rare because a lot of companies are thinking about setting up corporate impact fund, but you have some track records, and this is rare and unique. So thank you for sharing your experience. Here are some key success factors. Pim and Christophe shared some of them with us, most of them. 1, long-term vision. 2, top leadership support. 3, clear mandate from each vehicle. 4, joint governance. 5, common impact targets. This is something we hadn't discussed too much, but that was mentioned. And definitely what I want to say is that sometimes the combination of the 3 approach work as well. Remember, very interesting discussion with IKEA Social Entrepreneurship and Philips Foundation. They're mixing the 3 strategies actually, and it works well. Definitely what's next on the roadmap with the EVPA corporate community? Change now, join us in this international impact event initiated by the French. Nobody's perfect. It happens to be initiated in Paris, but it's going to be online, so connecting 10,000 plus participants. Amazing program for 3 days, and EVPA will have a corporate workshop on the 20 change now is on the 27 of May, not 15 of May, right? There is something wrong here. 27 of May at 3, and we will circulate to all of you some free pass to join us. EVPA corporate session at Change Now Summit. And I want to say also that our CEO will have a keynote on the 28th, but we'll circulate all this information later on. Thank you so much. We will follow up with obviously the wonderful case studies and the slides of the presentation. Thank you very much to our dear speakers. to the team and
Pleasure.
to all participants. Thank you.
Merci,
Thank you.
Sophie.
It was a pleasure.
Bye-bye, Crystal.
Bye-bye, team.
Au revoir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice afternoon.